We did it! We completed Inktober 2019. A round of applause to everybody who finished Inktober, and a round of applause to everybody who tried their best. I am so relieved it's over, but super excited to show you guys both my Inktober story and my complete sketchbook throughout the process. And if you want to watch me read the story to you, there is a separate video of me reading the story. You can click there. Let's just finally get into it. Part 1 of my Inktober. So as you can see, I decided to name my Inktober story Red Eyes. It's not the most creative name, but it is what it is. I'm not the best at coming up with names, as you can tell throughout my story. All of the names of things are words backwards. So yeah, not the most creative, but I do what I can. I decorated the covers of these books because I thought it would be really fun to treat them as if they were an actual book. So anyways, let's get into part 1. So this first page right off the bat, this page was supposed to be left blank, and I wrote the monologue for the first story on the wrong page. So we have this first page as a sort of intro, and the prompt was ring. So our first illustration is Ant, our character Ant. As you can see, she has a very long name. Anthea Samuel Hera Gregory Moria Fathaforicia. Nailed it. So anyways, we have Ant here. It's sort of an introductory page of our character, and she is just hanging out, doing our thing. I wanted to introduce her and her personality. So she's wearing this ring. She has a bag full of goodies that are sort of adventurous. And if you watched my first video where I was working on this Inktober piece, I said I was going to hide an ant in every illustration of this story, but I could not remember to do that. Day after day, I would just completely forget to include the ant, and it got to the point where I was going back and adding ants in weird, awkward locations, and it just didn't look good, so I just decided to drop it, and maybe it's something I can do in the future. And also, this is 2 pages double-sided taped together because the pages do bleed just a little bit through. So that's the reason why I have 2 books, because I was taping pages together so it could look like an actual storybook and not have any bleed through. Anyways, moving on, this is 2 prompts. We have mindless for these boys, and bait, Ant and her mindless guy friends, and there's bait. I really like this one. I think this is a very cute spread, and this is where I decided that I could not go without hatching. Originally, this first drawing had no hatching. It just looked so plain and bland, and once I added hatching to it, it was just a lot better looking. Alright, next up we have Freeze, and this is the piece that I drew in a video, so if you do want to watch me work on this piece, you can watch a video of that. I really like how I started to use red as an intense color to just add exaggeration to a scene and a mood, and I think it worked really well. Usually with Inktober I try to just work black and white, but because I was telling a story, I thought it would be more interesting if I added just one color, and I really like red. I think it's a really intense, fun color to play around with. Next up we have Build. So Build was kind of a stretch. I used it in the sense that this character had a fox-like build. So we have some bushes and our little introduction of our creature, Eider, behind the bushes. And as you can see from this illustration, Eider's design has changed a little bit. Just the way I drew him has changed over time because I went into this story day by day. I wrote the story day by day, I designed the characters day by day, and I didn't even know where the story was going. Next up, Husky. Again, I used Husky as a descriptive word, so her dad is Husky, and they're hugging. This illustration didn't turn out quite as I was hoping it would. I think some of my sketches looked a little bit better, but just in general, it's just kind of a weird one. This is Enchanted. Again, a very simple illustration because I put so much emphasis on the text, which was kind of a problem for me throughout this Inktober. This is Frail, and this is where pages started to fall out. I believe this is the exact middle page that fell out. It was just, I was doing a lot of light box and like bending the pages so I could trace things, and I think that the book just couldn't handle that. But anyway, this is Frail, which describes our floorboard. So we have Ant picking up this floorboard to reveal some spooky eyes. Who could it be? Prompt swing. So I think most of my prompts really were used in a way that was kind of like, it works technically, but it's kind of a stretch. So I said she was swinging her arms, so I used it as a verb. And I really like this one. This one's just really fun, and there's some movement there, and I love the black and the red. It's really nice. This is prompt pattern. Again, the word pattern in this illustration is pretty much non-existent. I said that the creature had a brushstroke pattern for his fur, but throughout the whole book, I just drew him plain black because I thought it looked better without texture. But I do think this actually might be my favorite illustration in my whole Inktober, which is kind of crazy. It's just so simple. I really like Eider's pose. I think it just turned out really cute. I love how small it is. What can I say? Small things are cute. So I really like this piece a lot. Moving on to prompt snow. So again, this is another one where I had planned to do a little bit more snow. I was actually going to draw a map with some snowy mountains on them, but I just decided to go with this tiny little pin, and that's my snow. It's the most smallest inclusion of snow ever, but that's fine. I really like the layout of this page. I was trying to do the text in a way that was inclusive with the illustration because I do want to illustrate children's books, and I think it's really fun when the text is more than just a block on the side of the page. So it was really fun to make the text on this story sort of like a patch on her backpack, and it was really cute. Here are various things in her backpack, and of course we do have some cameos like Dennis and Hatch and an ant, so that was really fun to include. Moving on, this is another piece I really like. So again, just really text heavy. I didn't plan on this much text in my Inktober story, but I just got so carried away with the story that it ended up being very text heavy. I guess I like writing more than I thought I did. So this piece was really fun. This is the most detailed piece so far. I really like how it's horizontal based, and there's just a lot of details and a lot of fun going on in here, and I just really enjoyed this piece. It was really fun. Oh, by the way, this is prompt dragon and ash, which again, quite a stretch. The pages of this book are supposed to be ashy, but you can barely see that, but that's fine. Next up is overgrown. So we have an overgrown cave. This is a landscape of the, Savnak? The land of Savnak, which is canvas backwards. Not much to say about this one. I felt like it was kind of eh. Moving on to Legend. I really like this piece. I think the pieces I like the most have a lot of black in them because the white just really pops, and it's really fun. So Legend in this piece is the sort of hieroglyphic sort of things on the wall over here. We have Ant and Eider going through the cave, and it's looking spooky but really cool. And I really like the way this one turned out. The shadows are fun, and I like it. And the last chapter in this book, we have Wild. So here we have the queen, the Knee Queen. Knee is these creatures, these sort of black dog fox creatures, which again, it's spelled ink backwards, so Knee, K-N-I. Looking back at this illustration, I don't know why I didn't use more red in the background to create this really intense scene, because she's supposed to be wild. She's supposed to be not herself and kind of in a weird possessed way. So I really do wish I had used red in the background, but I think I had my mind set on it being a dark cave, so I had all of this black hatching in the background, but it really should have been red, but that's okay. If that's my only regret, I think that's okay with this illustration. So that is it for book 1. Let's move on to book 2. Part 2. The cover on this one is an ink pen, which I feel like is kind of not that into the story, but I wasn't really sure what to do, so... Alright, so continuing on with my mistake of putting text on the front, I decided to make it match part 1. So we have part 2 introducing our character Eider, which is our little fox-like creature who can shapeshift, which is really fun. The prompt on this one was ornament, and again, quite a stretch. I said his eyes were an ornament. I mean, you can say if I copped out or not, but anyway, here's our illustration. We have Eider here in his human form looking very mysterious and cute. I really like the way his design is, even though it's very simple, it's just a basic body shape, but I think he's really cute. So there he is. Next up we have Misfit. So obviously we have Eider being a misfit. He doesn't belong in his group of knee creatures. So he's looking very sad. I really enjoyed the emotion in this piece and trying to create this blob of, I guess, a crowd of creatures, which didn't turn out exactly how I wanted it to, but it was okay. And we have Sling. So when it came to the prompt Sling, I don't know. It was one of those, again, another stretch. I drew a slingshot up here as a little spot illustration, just in case I wasn't able to include the verb sling. So she's slinging this letter into her bag. I don't know. I tried so hard to include the prompts, but I think in the end I decided to put priority on the story rather than the prompts. I like the illustration, but there's just so much white space and it's kind of awkwardly framed, and I'm just not really sure how I feel about this one. Probably my least favorite illustration of all. That's okay. Can't win them all. I really like this one. So this is Tread, and I really pushed the text creating a hill, and I just love the way this turned out as far as layout for a page goes. We have them treading up this hill, a lovely little background, and them running up this hill, and it just turned out so cute, and I really love this piece. Okay, this is the piece that took me the absolute longest. If you can't tell by the amount of detail that is in this piece, it just took a ridiculous amount of time. I really wanted to push myself to do backgrounds on this Inktober adventure, and let me tell you, this is the ultimate background in my whole Inktober at all. It took me hours to do. I actually did perspective for once. It's not the best, but I feel like I really tried my best. And I think it just looks amazing, and I'm just very happy that I pushed myself to do that. That said, this is the prompt treasure, and I included some treasures up here just to make sure I included it because I wasn't able to fit it into this illustration. We have a treasure map and possible treasures that could be in the treasure that you find from the map. Next up is Ghost and Ancient, which I actually combined into one. So we have an ancient ghost, we have a ghost with a beard. So we have our characters in a cave for the night. I really like this piece. Again, it's another one where we have a lot of text and the illustration is at top, and I just really like that. And the different tones, the darkness and lightness I was able to achieve by hatching. I just think it's just so good looking, and I really like this one. This page is about to fall off. It's the middle page, so I'm not surprised. All right, next up we have Dizzy. So this one's pretty self-explanatory. We have Ant. She is dizzy. I wanted to have a pose where she was looking not very stable. So we have the classic cartoon of birds floating around someone's head, but instead I have Eider, which I think was really cute. I decided not to color her at all in this piece just to make sure that the red in the background was very intense, and her being dizzy and her being in just black and white kind of helped the mood of her not being herself, so that is that. Next up, we have Tasty. Again, very small illustration as we are getting to the end of Inktober. I'm not upset with the illustration. I think it's a really simple illustration, and I don't think this scene needed much more than what we have. We have the ghost with its tongue out, and Ant is inside of it. So there you go, Tasty. Next up, we have Dark, and this one was really fun. I was so conflicted while I was doing this illustration. I wanted to do a shadow with a bird's eye view of our characters going up the mountain, but I don't think I achieved as much darks in this illustration as I would have liked. It's just a lot of midtones and whites. Though I do really like the way the shadow turned out. I think it turned out really well, and I'm happy with the piece. Next up is Coat, and this is like the coat, like a dog's fur coat or something. So we have Eider changing into a dragon, so his coat is going from black to red. I really like this piece. The only problem I have with it is that there's just not enough dark tones in it, so it's very light heavy, and it's just, there's not enough depth happening basically in this piece. But other than that, I do like it. I just wish I maybe pushed some darker tones. Next up is Ride, and this is one of my favorite illustrations just because, like I said before, the text placement interacting with our illustration, and I really pushed the 3D-ness in the shadows of our mountain there. It's just Ooh, for me, I think that's a lot, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And overall, this one turned out pretty good. I'm happy with it. It's interesting visually, and yeah, coming up to the end, we have injured. If you can't tell, I was definitely coming at the end of my ropes and patience, and just kind of ready for this to be over. I mean, how else really could I show Eider being injured, laying in a field? I guess I could have done a background, but I think this was a really intense moment of Eider not feeling well, and his eyes changed from a red color to a white, so I did want to just emphasize that this was intense, basically. Next up, we have Catch. So I really like this illustration, even though it's not the most intense. I've had so many detailed illustrations in this Inktober that I'm not upset that I started to slack off near the end. So we have Ant riding on the dragon's head, and she is throwing a cookie into his mouth. And I think it's just really fun, a really fun, simple illustration. And this is it. Our last illustration, we have day 31, which was ripe. So we have this really weird ripe fruit from Eider's world. I wasn't sure what to do for this illustration. I was thinking about having just Eider from a front view, and you will see my sketchbook when I show you guys. Just Eider on the knee of Ant's dad. Really excited to see him, but in the end I decided to go with like memories. Like we've got some Polaroid pictures here, a vial of ink, and like a plant from the other world. I think my main regret in this illustration is that I didn't make the ink in this vial red. I think it would have looked a lot better if it was red, because there's so much red down here and there's no red up there. But again, if that's my only regret in the illustration, then great. So that's it. That is my entire Inktober story. And again, if you do want me to read this story to you, I will have a separate video on that. So just check the description, I will link it in there. With that, let's continue by touring the Inktober sketchbook. Our first page is a test page. With any notebook, you're going to want to do tests to make sure your pens and other materials work. I also wasn't sure what colors I was going to use on my Inktober. I started this on day one. I had zero plans for my Inktober. The story was not written. I didn't know my colors or my characters or anything. So I started off by doing some tests just to make sure it didn't bleed too much. And I discovered that if I did hold down the pen, it would bleed. And that's when I thought I could use both sides of my paper, and then I ended up finding out that they did bleed a little bit, and I had to tape all my pages together. So starting off, this is our character design. I didn't know what she looked like at first, so I started off with some heads, kind of got a general idea of what I liked, just fiddling around with texture or solid leggings, fiddling around with emotions, and then this is when I started to get into our first prompt. This is our second prompt. We have our bait and worms. I don't know. This is our fourth prompt, freeze. I did this in a video, so if you want to watch the process, you can go back and watch that. These are designs for Eider, early designs for Eider. I didn't know if I wanted him to be fat and cute or really fox-like or what. And then in the end, I went with a very generic, I guess, design for him, but he has 6 legs, and I thought that was really fun. This is Ant hugging her dad for Husky. And these are some plant designs that I actually drew after I drew the plant. And I really wish I pushed it a little bit more for Enchanted, but in the end, I didn't really have a lot of room on that page, so I'm kind of glad I went with a more simple look. Okay, this page is my layout page and my checkoff page, which I kind of wish I had put in the back of the book, because every time I wanted to go through and like check off the pages, I had to find it, which was hard to do. Always put that in the back. This is, what was it, Frail. We have Ant picking up the board, and then this is her swinging her arms. I really enjoyed the sketch for this one, but I thought that the style was kind of leaving the style that I was pushing for this project. I wanted very simple and very geometric, and this was going in a more normal, anatomically correct, because her head is a lot smaller, she's got longer legs, and it wasn't quite the same style that I was going for, but I really like that sketch. These are more Eider sketches when I was actually designing what Eider was going to look like for real. And then these are items that were going to be in Ant's backpack. This is for Dragon and Ash, was it? just the general designs of the room. I knew I didn't want to sketch out the room too much because there was going to be so many details that I didn't want to have to redraw them twice. So just a very generic idea of what I was going to draw, and then I really went ham on the actual illustration. This is for Overgrown, just coming up with ideas for the cave and the landscape. I am sorry I sketched with blue pencil. It's hard for me to even see it, so it's probably hard for you guys to see it. This is Legend. So we have Ant going through the cave. I wasn't sure what expression I wanted her to have. This is for Wild, and this one I really struggled with. I wasn't sure what I wanted the queen to look like. I wasn't sure about the layout of her throne. I really like her throne design, but you can't really see it in the illustration, so that's kind of a bummer. But I do have her crown, which I really like. And these are designs for Eider's human form, which I kind of struggled with. I wanted it to be simple, but I didn't want it to be too goofy, but I didn't want it to be too adult. Like, I did want the proportions of his body to be cute and small. I didn't want him to look too old. So we have some weird sketches here. And then Misfit, so I have Eider being very sad. I really like this one. And then Eider being very angry, just trying out some emotions. Next up, we have Sling. So I really wasn't sure about this one. Ant slinging her map into her bag. I just had a variety of different ideas. This one I struggled with. I wasn't sure. I kind of wish I did go for a more simple one like this one here, but I did like the emotion I had of Eider being sad. I really wanted to include it, and I'm glad that I did in the end. I just didn't really like the illustration. This is Tread. This one I didn't sketch too much for just because I kind of knew what I was already doing, though I really like this pose of Eider being in human form but not resisting acting like a dog and going up on all fours. This is Treasure, where I was playing around with different angles for this scene, which I continued on the next page because I didn't like the angle of this one was too high up, but then the angle on this one was just too low and in the action. I wanted something a little more that included everything above and under. So I'm glad I did come up with a conclusion, and then also I was playing around with the framing of that illustration, which was really fun. We have our ancient ghost and Ant being cute. Next up is Dizzy, which again, I was really not sure what I wanted to do for this one. I originally was thinking of having Eider holding on to Ant's shoulders and having that perspective, but I just didn't really like the way it looked, and I thought it would be more fun to go with a more full body image of Ant being dizzy. Again, here with Tasty, we didn't need a lot of sketching. It's literally just the ghost in a front-facing position and then a side position. It was a very easy illustration, and I basically knew what I was going to go for with that. Moving on to Dark. This one, I really wasn't sure what to do. I ended up going for my first sketch here, which was the bird's eye view. So that was something I definitely came up with first, but then I thought it would be really fun if I tried from more down, up looking perspective and having the dragon above them while they looked up, which this one turned out really fun. But in the end, I think it was just a better overall look for that one. And then Coat, this one was just a one-off sketch. I really liked that and just went for it, but I was kind of thinking of different poses for Ant to be in when she was looking at Eider going up the ledge. This one just turned out really cute and cool, so I went ahead and completely inked that one. This one was also really fun. This one is for Ride, so we have Ant riding on the dragon going around the mountain. I pretty much knew the layout of this one also, so I didn't need too much sketching, though I was kind of messing around with the angle of the mountain. And then I also wanted to get a better idea of what the dragon looked like because I thought I was going to draw the dragon later on, but I never did, so rip dragon. And then we have some page layouts for Injured, again just kind of coming up with a simple pose for Eider to be in, and then also with Catch. Not really sure what I wanted to do for it, but in general I just knew it was going to be a dragon head. And then our last one, like I said, I have Eider with a perspective of him in the face of the dad, and that one just wasn't turning out, and I thought it would be more cute to have a variety of items to wrap up the story. So that is what I went with. And then I wanted to try to name, I guess, our story. What I did end up going with, as you know, I went with the red eyes. But then I started to fiddle around with other possibilities, Ant and the Ink Sprouts, or Ant and Ink Sprouts in the land of the knee. And then my favorite, it's a story. Things happen and people die. Rip grandma. I mean, spoiler alert. Oops, sorry. So then I did some sketches because I did have a few pages left after Inktober was done. I sketched the front of the book just to make sure I knew what I wanted to draw on the covers. And then I just kind of doodled Ant and Eider being cute because I still had a couple of pages. And that's it. And there we go. Another year of Inktober complete. And again, if you do want to listen to me read the complete story to you guys, there is a separate video for that, a link in the description. I'll see you there. Now excuse me while I think about turning this into an actual book or zine. I am so undecided. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay golden. And now a huge thank you to my wonderful patrons for all of their support. You guys are the best. If you want to be in the credits at the end of my videos, see secret sketches, coloring pages, early access, and more, check out my Patreon by clicking a link in the description. Thank you guys all so much for the support. Bye!